Hello and welcome to another Dev Diary here in Imperator, Rome, in anticipation for the new Marius 2.0 and Heirs of Alexander DLC pack that are coming out. Well, we still don't know. So before we get into any of today's stuff, first off, a little announcement. There's still, to my knowledge, no release date as of yet announced. So we're still anxiously awaiting the announcement of, of course, when all of this awesome-looking new content is going to drop. It's going to drastically change the way that you play Imperator Rome, and I'm thinking it's for the better. So there's a lot of good stuff to get in here, for us to get into here. Another two-parter, which keeps with the pattern of recent weeks. So Ario, the game director, is going to give us a little bit of an intro, part 1, and then Chop Mist is going to follow up with a part 2. So there are no more mission trees, I don't think. We've covered all the mission trees, all the Diodaki, and the more general Hellenistic mission tree have been introduced in the Dev Diaries in recent weeks, and those are all looking pretty good. But now we're getting into some more nitty-gritty type stuff, more fundamental stuffs like population growth and map changes. So map changes I'm particularly excited to get into. We'll talk about population growth, and this falls in line with some of the rebalancing and retooling that they're doing ahead of the release of Marius 2.0. So let's get into it. Let's see what Ario, the game director, has to say. Greetings all! My part of today's developer diary focuses on further changes coming to the population system in 2.0. The changes to civilization value mentioned previously opened up further opportunities for a rethink on population growth. In 1.5 and before, cities were largely sustained by prolonged inwards migration. While this is not something I necessarily want to change, we'll be splitting up where population growth comes from, with the dual intentions of letting cities stand their own ground when growing pops, and allowing for more engagement in how you promote growth in owned territory. Firstly, base pop growth and pop growth from stability have reduced significantly. Okay, so as it is now, it's pretty common for cities to just blow up, right? So you have good solid growth, especially if you're not getting sacked or anything like this. And you have periods of peace and prosperity. Growth is pretty significant, so they're nerfing that. It sounds like, as well as the bonus you get pop growth just from being, having high stability, being stable. Secondly, civilization value now contributes to pop growth, simulating an increased growth rate in developed metropoles. Okay, so this is an interesting point. Civilization value, which has been talked about in previous dev diaries, you should go back and check it out. We have discussed it on the channel last week. Civilization value now contributes to population growth, which is interesting. So how does that work with barbarian tribes, or not barbarian, but just tribes? Like the most, a lot of the map, about half the map or so, are barbarian tribes, or just tribes, not barbarian tribes. Tribal governments and the like who don't want civilization value. They want their tribesmen, right? They want to live in filth and grow long beards and practice divination and all that stuff. I guess Romans practice divination too, but you get what I'm saying. If you don't want civilization value, does that mean like you're not going to grow? How does that work? Okay, well, let's keep reading. Thirdly, the population growth rate from stored food has been slightly reduced. However, the food consumption of tribesmen has been reduced, making it easier to boost growth in underdeveloped tribal territories without also affecting the inherently low population capacity of said land. Okay, so that question was just answered in the very next line. Right, so they're going to make it easier to grow tribesmen, right? Because they're not going to eat as much. They don't require as much food, so they're going to grow at a faster rate. So that's going to offset the slower rate from having a low civilization value. So low civilization value equals low rate. Tribesmen equals high rate, so the two kind of balance out a little bit. And then with the more civilized, quote-unquote civilized setups, you're going to have, sort of reverse dynamics when it comes to that. Okay, cool. Lastly, various sources of population growth have been slightly reduced to accommodate the new increases from civilization value. So it sounds like civilization value is going to... Well, we already knew from the last dev diary that civilization value has been reworked and rebalanced, and it's going to play a larger and more intricate role in everybody's campaign. So what does this achieve? Overall, there should be slightly less global growth in the average game. That's good. I do think cities get too big. There's too much growth by the end of the game. I don't think it accurately reflects population growth at the time. I guess I wouldn't know that, but it just seems like there's too much. Okay, so I think it's good to nerf it a little bit. Still enough control to make long-term decisions valid, or for local factors to have much more of an impact on the fabric of the game. All right, fine. So here's this image here. Let's read what they say first before talking about it. These graphs show the 2.0 build prior to population changes and post-population changes. As you can see, the newer system bottom results in less total population over time, with a marginally nerfed warm period event being one of the main factors. Okay, that warm period event, everybody loves the warm period event. Yeah. Okay, so what is that? So we have a scale of 80,000 in the first one and 70,000 here. So it doesn't look like it's less, but it actually is less. So you 80,000 here, 70,000 here. So yeah, it's a little bit less. And the warm period event, the spike, this is the previous one. The spike in the new 2.0 version is not as big. It's been a little bit nerfed, but it's still significant. Okay, so I mean, yeah, these angles are just a little bit less sharp. Still looks a bit much though. All right, well, we'll see. We'll see. Games in 1.5 had a tendency to balloon in population density towards the end game. Yeah, right, that's what I'm talking about. Due in part to the availability of inventions and modifiers affecting pop growth. With population now being intrinsically related to army sizes, we felt it was time to return to a more realistic asterisk growth pattern that still allows the players to manipulate the world's situation to their advantage. Yeah, realistic is always good. Well, generally it's a good idea to go with realistic growth pattern. I don't know why you would want any other kind of growth pattern than one that could presumably be considered realistic. Anyway, so yeah, I'm glad that they're going that direction with that. Related to these changes, domestic migration has been slowed down slightly, and settlement production buildings, with the exception of the legation, now reduce outward pop migration almost zero, unless there are extenuating circumstances such as occupation or overpopulation. Okay, so they're also nerfing immigration a little bit. Okay, so in reference to that asterisk, he says, the academic consensus appears to be that the usual global increase in population entered a bit of a plateau at around the time Imperator is set, to around the time it ends. The usual global increase in population entered a bit of a plateau at around this time. Okay, so why wouldn't you want to accurately reflect that? This is still not a plateau. It's just less of a steep angle. Anyway, I'm not going to fuss over it too much. I'm guessing... All right, here's my sort of prediction on this. So cities blow up too much now. Pops in general, too many population, too many people. The growth is too high. By the end of the game, they're trying to nerf that a little bit, and by this image here, I'm going to predict that they're not going to accomplish what they're looking to, because I think they probably need to nerf it a little bit more. We'll see. That's my thought on that. Anyway, let's move on. Research efficiency. Somewhat tangentially to population changes, we're also going to be gating the maximum research efficiency of nations. The base maximum research efficiency of nations will now begin at 125%. All right? This value can be relatively easy to achieve for smaller nations and should still offset technological advancement positively if focused upon. However, a great disparity in tech between larger empires and city-states was simply too easy to achieve. Right. Playing tall in Imperator Rome is not it's not realistic. I mean, you could do it as a challenge, if you're a really good player and everything. Yeah, you could play tall. You could make your own sort of goals with that and everything like that, but it's not really meant for you to play tall at all. It's all about conquests in Imperator Rome, and that's because the advantages to being a big blob of an empire compared to the advantages of being a little, mercantile city-state, there's no comparison. You can't survive as the latter. So this is already the case where if you have, your research efficiency is improved with the more nobles and citizens, and I'm not, don't quote me on this, I'm not sure the most recent rebalances of in the most recent update, maybe Freeman too, I don't think so, but anyway, research efficiency is determined by your type, whether that be noble or citizen or both, and you'll have higher efficiency the higher ratio of that type of pop that you have in among your population. So, of course, playing tall, you know, you're in one city, one rich city with many nobles and citizens and everything like that. You have high research efficiency, but despite that reality, and say like compared to like I don't know the Antigonid Kingdom, has a lot of different peoples, different population types, and different you know, they have tribesmen in there, and they have a lot of slaves and freemen, whatnot. Their research efficiency is much lower. However, they still get techs way faster because their economies are overpowered compared to yours, and they still have enough. You know, they outnumber you in enough dimensions where it just doesn't matter that you have this boost as a tall civ, as it were. So I'm hoping they make it more viable to play tall. This sort of thing is a good sign for that. I still don't recommend it though. We still want technology to be a valid choice in nation building, however, and numerous nodes have been added to the invention tree, increasing the maximum research efficiency that a country can achieve. Okay, so they start at 125%. So you're researching at an efficiency rate of 125%. That means you're going as well as you can possibly go. Now there are certain nodes along the tech trees that can boost that. So this one right here, let's see, maximum research efficiency plus 25%. So when you get embracing philosophy, you will increase your research efficiency and increase the maximum. So it'll go from 125 to 150 when active with embracing philosophy here. Okay, so I like this. Little detail. If you want to build a state as a shining beacon of technological advancement, this is entirely possible, but you have to weigh up this decision against other valuable advancements. I would really like to play that way. I would really like to play as a tall city-state or something that is all about science, that has universities and academies and libraries that draw scholars from all over, men of wisdom, and such thing. Like that'd be a really fun campaign to play. Unfortunately, Imperator Rome is not the game for you if that's the type of campaign you're wanting to have. But according to Ario here, they want that to be possible. Oh, they don't say that they don't specifically mention it playing tall. I mean, you could be a state as a shining beacon of technological advancement as an empire too, of course, which I do try to do every time I play. But I think it would be really cool if they gave you some more viable options. What is this too? Highly talented philosopher arrives in our country. Roman permanently gains school of philosophy, local population employees plus 6%, local research points plus 15%. Okay, all this looks very good. Cool. With that, I'll hand it over to Chop Mist to take you through some of the map changes coming in 2.0. Alright, so thank you, Ario, for detailing the pop growth and research efficiency updates. Now, let's get into the map changes. And there are, before we start talking about it, so this is our Antigonid Kingdom. And we're used to a lot of these, but they added more little guys here. Little minor factions. So, of course, we're used to all of these on the western coast of Anatolia. These start out as client states of the Antigonid Kingdom, as is Cappadocia here. And then there's, there's these little guys down here. Yeah, that's all the same, but this is all new. On the southern coast of Anatolia here. This was all just part of the Antigonid Kingdom before. So, let's see what they have to say about that. Marius map changes. The cartographically committed among you may have noticed that Anatolia and Phoenicia have received a facelift for the Marius patch. Well, they don't show Phoenicia here. That's like the Levant, Lebanon area. Oh, here's northern Phoenicia. Okay, I spoke too soon. Right. Okay, so is this all new? Wow. All right, and then northern Phoenicia gets a little bit. They have several city-states before. They had 2 city-states before. I think it was 2 or 3. I can't remember. But anyway, so there are some definite changes for Phoenicia here and southern Anatolia. That's really cool. Let's find out specifically what they are. These changes began as small tweaks to the region as we reworked the Antigonid split events, but grew as the patch progressed. In the end, the whole peninsula was overhauled, Anatolia being an important region across the time span of the game and to the Diadochi Wars in particular, and one which was arguably not well represented pre-2.0, arguably. yeah, I mean, I think that, well, Anatolia, despite, I mean, this is not, I've never said this, it's arguably not well represented for 2.0. Sure, maybe, I'm no historical expert on that, but it's still consistently one of the most dynamic regions in any campaign. You have Cappadocia, which, you know, especially, they gave that some tweaks in the latest patch. So there's a lot going on. There's the heir to the Achaemenid Persian dynasty, also in northern Anatolia. There's Pontus. There's you know, you're adjacent to Byzantium. You have all these cities. You got all these little feudatories over here. You have Cyprus. Anyway, I think it's a very interesting region, and if they're gonna shake it up even more, that's all the better. Cool. Population centers, road routes, passables, lakes, rivers, and more have been tweaked to better reflect the region in the early Hellenistic era. Okay, more of that is always welcome. Many thanks to our betas and forumites for their research and suggestions, especially Samite, and at Ketchup and Friends, who will no doubt recognize their labors here. Okay, so these people are being shouted out, so good for them. Thank you to them as well. In addition, southern Anatolia is now split between small native tags who cannot directly threaten Antigonus, but make movement more awkward and soften the underbelly of the kingdom, representing the lack of central control around these mountains. Excellent. Cool. I like that a lot. Lycia and Olbia will begin as subjects of the Antigonids, so they get 2 more subjects. They already have a bunch to start. Who will retain the Persian road from Kalonate to Perch along the Paphlanian coast unless they abandon the east. This will make the Sicilian gates much more important until these tribes are brought under proper control. Right, this is Cilician. Sorry, I said Sicilian. The Cilician gates here. So, looks like in this screenshot they're under control. Cilician gates are right here, where the cursor is. So, I think, and they're under Antigonus' control in this screenshot, but if you look at this screenshot, they're under control of this purplish, bluish color. I guess this is later, because this is not the Antigonids. This is, so maybe Seleucus were taken over. I don't know, but it's different. I guess this is the starting situation in Anatolia. What's this? A post-division view? Oh, a post-division, right? So this is later. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All right, so Antigonus gets 2 more subjects, but there's a bunch of chaos down here. Movement's going to be weird. You have to put them under your iron fist, as it were, if you really want to take care of the situation for good, apparently. As part of these changes, the Anatolian culture group has been broken up, with the addition of cultures. Nice. Moreover, Bithynian has been moved from the Hellenic to the Dacian group, which has also received the new Mariandian culture. I can pronounce that. Elsewhere, Paeonian has been added to the Illyrian group, and Talaotic, at long last, added to the Occidental group. Okay, so these are, you know, basically just lists for real nerds to appreciate. These changes will hopefully make fighting in and ruling over Asia more interesting. By Asia, of course, he means, you know, the ancient reference to Anatolia. Though other parts of the world haven't been totally ignored. Well, that's good. The above screenshot also highlights the changes to mountain passes. All right. I did notice that it looks a little different. The smallest of which are no longer ownable, instead being wastelands with very low combat width, which serve as choke points where a smaller force can hold off a larger. Brilliant. I love that. I love that. So they're not viable for, you know, anything. You can't own them. So this is, all right. Taking a look at this map, you see here is the Cilician Pass, and here's another one. Right, so mountain passes have been reworked to... There's a previous Dev Diary on combat width that I invite you to go back and check out. They want to make combat width more prominent in the game, and so the mountain passes are a perfect opportunity for you to show your strategic mettle and say that you are, you know, fighting a more superior force to your own. If you can somehow lure them into a mountain pass where you can, you know, defeat a much, you know, think of 300 and everything, although they didn't actually win, but you can defeat and seriously bloody enemy forces in mountain passes. So they're trying to make that more strategically viable. And so notice here we have blue, then we have like a turquoise, and these are gray. Okay, that indicates that there's no owner. Same here. This is unowned wasteland. Interesting. Alright, so here's an example of Tempe Pass. An example of a mountain pass. Okay, so and here are a bunch of specifics on added country tags, culture tags, formable tags, and major rivers. And there's another screenshot down here. This looks like the Italian peninsula. Yeah, this is northern Italy. Very nice. So I'm sure that we're supposed to glean from this some changes being made. I'll go ahead and admit that I'm not so intimately familiar with every section of northern Italy as to comment on it right here, but I would guess that there are changes to the fertile Padus Valley. Okay. So this is the Padus Valley, I suppose. Maybe they did some changes to that. Okay, so here's just a list of new tags and stuff. Let's see, more Anatolian countries, more Hellenic countries, one Illyrian country, and one Levantine country, Eva Seem. So that must be maybe a new added to Phoenicia. Cultures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 new Anatolian cultures, moving Bithynians over to Dacian culture and adding another one adding a Paeonian culture and adding an Occidental culture, and adding new formables, which is always exciting. I don't know where any of these are. Lydia, I think that's in Anatolia. So these are probably mostly Anatolia related. Major rivers, I'm also not entirely familiar with them, but in Cilicia they added 2. In Britannia they added 2. In Scythia they added 2. Cisalpine Gaul they added 1. The Padus Valley that we were just talking about. Cool. And in Hispania they added 1. Okay, so that is it for this dev diary. This is a much shorter edition than in previous weeks because we don't have the mission tree to discuss, I suppose. But some very cool changes coming. Some changes coming in growth, which is being nerfed. Changes to research efficiency, which I like a lot more than the growth thing. But the research efficiency changes and the nodes in the tech trees I'm particularly excited about. I want it to be more viable to play tall, to be a beacon of science and all of that. I think it'd be really cool. And then these map changes are also shaking up Anatolia, and Marius 2.0 is really shaping up. I'm quite excited for it. We do not yet have a release date, but as soon as we do, I will be the one to let you know. And I would really love to hear what your thoughts are on the upcoming Marius 2.0 and Heirs of Alexander DLC pack for Imperator Rome. So, if you did find this content enjoyable, if you like what you heard, please consider dropping a like, subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to drop a comment and let me know your thoughts on the upcoming releases for Imperator Rome. And until the next one, bye-bye.